This series, I'm hitting the road for a whistle-stop tour of one of our closest and most impressive neighbours, the epic country of New Zealand. Famed for its spectacular geography, a visit to New Zealand can take in wilderness walks, adventure tourism, world-class cuisine, and of course, legendary cool climate wines. And I plan to do it all. I'm George, and I'm on a ferry on my way from Auckland to Waiheke Island, the first stop on our tour. Known as New Zealand's island of wine, the pristine Waiheke Island sits snugly in the Hauraki Gulf in the north. Close enough to Auckland for a day trip, though you'll definitely want to stay longer, this beautiful island escape showcases more than 30 boutique vineyards and stunning coastal headlands. Home to the oldest vineyard on Waiheke Island, Goldie Estate began its history in 1977 when Kim and Jeanette Goldwater bought the property and had the foresight to plant the island's first vines. First up, I'm meeting assistant winemaker Guy by the iconic symbol of Goldie Estate to take in some spectacular views. Guy, hello.
Hello.
We're under a Pohutakawa tree.
Absolutely.
Which is a very significant tree to New Zealand.
Yeah, it's our New Zealand Christmas tree. And this is a really special old guy that was on the original Kennedy farm, which made up a large portion of this end of the island, which the Goldwaters then acquired. And it was old regenerating farmland basically, so lots of scrub and gorse. So I really have to tip my hat to them for what they've done and all the work that went into clearing the site.
And they were one of the first?
They were the first vineyard on the island, yeah, which is really, really cool. So we
visionary.
Feel, absolutely, it's totally changed the face of Waiheke for years now. And really inspiring people, Kim and Jeanette. And so we've got a lot to look after here, and we really feel that heritage and feel like we want to be good guardians for it.
Yeah. So the vineyard was planted in the 70s?
Yeah, so Kim and Jeanette used to bring their sailboat over and park down in Putiki Bay, which we're standing over at the moment.
This is Putiki Bay?
Putiki Bay, yeah. And they would come up the hill and stay in their old homestead and work on the weekends planting the vineyard. In 1978, they started with 2 hectares of Cabernet Sauvignon. Then they planted some Merlot, Sauvignon Blanc, and then later on Chardonnay and Syrah.
Are all those vines still here?
Yeah, we have 6 varieties on the island. We had to go through a bit of a replanting process between 97 and 2007. And then again, we're constantly looking to improve things clonally with selection. So we planted new Chardonnay in 2016, and we planted some new Syrah in 2019 as well.
Oh, sure, you've got little baby vines.
Yeah, so we're really excited to see them come online and give another sort of face to the expression here.
And so the island is quite unique in that it's at such a controlled climate, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely moderated by the ocean. And some of the vineyards, as you can see, they almost go right to the ocean.
Yeah.
So you can almost taste that in some of the wines. There's a saltiness to them, which is really interesting. That's a Waiheke character, for sure. And
speaking of the grapes and the vines, you don't have any irrigation?
No, we don't. It's all dry farmed, and it has been for most of the time.
That's incredible.
Sometimes in really dry years, young vines struggle a little bit, but because of the type of soil, the clays, they hold a lot of water and look after the vines for pretty much the whole season through, which is really great.
That's great. Very eco-friendly.
Yeah,
which has
indeed.
got the ethos of Waiheke.
Absolutely.
As well as the gorgeous views by the Pohutakawa tree, Goldie Estate has a charming cellar door where Leslie is the manager and executive chef. So we're in the cellar door / deli.
Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful in here.
Yeah. This used to be the original winery, and it used to be covered in wine barrels when we first started here. So we slowly kind of created a space that we wanted to use, but wanted to keep the kind of rustic feel and kind of the history of the place, because this was the first commercial winery on Waiheke.
You know quite a lot of the history because you've been here for
Yes.
a little while.
Yes.
Yeah. How long have you been at Goldie
I've been
Estate?
at Goldie for 12 years.
And you, of course, met your husband,
Yes. Yes.
who is head winemaker.
Head winemaker, yes. So we got married here 11 and a half years ago in the winery at the time. He was just a cellar hand and making wine kind of part-time. And I was cooking a lot, so yeah.
You live on Waiheke, obviously.
Yes.
You love it here.
Yes.
What makes the island so special to you?
Waiheke is really unique. I've lived in a few places in New Zealand and I never felt community like I felt on Waiheke. When I first moved here, we met our neighbors straight away and everyone just wants to help everyone, which is, it's really an amazing place. We know all our neighbors, and every first Friday of the month we have our, what we call happy hour in our community hall, and the whole community of Rocky Bay come together, and you take wine, you take cheese, and you just catch up with your neighbors. And I don't know many places in the world that still kind of have that community feel.
Yeah.
Waiheke, you're
Very
close.
close proximity. To
Yeah, you're close and you're close knit, and that's quite special.
Hello, Heinrich.
It's going.
Great, thank you. You are the winemaker,
Correct.
and you've been here for quite a while.
I started here sort of on and off in 2009, 2010, and then officially became the winemaker here in 2011. Really fell in love with Waiheke, and obviously lots of beaches, which we love, vineyards that appeals to us.
Talk us through your process a little bit.
I think the biggest difference is the vineyard and where the grapes come from. That's the biggest difference that you've got from region to region and even vineyard to vineyard. So even on Waiheke, if we just look at Goldie here, we've got 4 different Merlot blocks. They're all different, and that's mainly to do with the aspect, the soil, rootstocks, clones, all those sort of things. So in terms of the vineyard, that's the real key. So if we can get good grapes from the vineyard, then my job's just so much easier. My philosophy has sort of changed over the years. I'm a lot more sensitive to my environment now as well, especially from an environmental and sustainable sort of standpoint as well. And it's very much about sort of minimal intervention for us these days. And again, going back to the vineyard, I believe that if we can put the hard work and effort into the vineyard and make the right decisions out there, then the winemaking process in itself is pretty straightforward and hands-off.
So how did you get involved in wine initially?
So when I first came to New Zealand, I became involved in the hospitality industry, and I was studying hospitality and business management, and my wife and I worked at a little boutique vineyard up north in Northland. So I would work in the restaurant during the day, and then after hours I would help out in the vineyard or in the cellar. So that kind of helped me gain experience.
And they're very complementary.
Very complementary, and the two are so sort of ingrained.
And I mean here especially, that's what happens.
Exactly, and that's also what brought us to Waiheke in a way, is that we both knew that we'd be able to find jobs on the island that would complement our sort of strengths and still allow us to be engaged with the hospitality industry and at the same time develop in the wine industry.
When I studied and trained to be a chef, and when I worked in different restaurants, it was always, you know, that has to be first. You have to think about what the food's going with. You can't just make a dish and then match it with a wine. You need to have the wine first and then make the dish. So that's kind of how I've always worked, but working with Heinrich helps me a lot because he knows my way of cooking and my flavors and style of cooking, and he can always help me like match what his wines are with the food that I'm making. So it's quite
Perfect relationship.
yeah, it is.
Whilst filming the Cellar Door New Zealand on Waiheke Island, our crew chose to stay at the beautiful Waiheke Waterfront Lodge. Just a 35-minute ferry from Auckland, this privately owned and operated coastal property takes bed and breakfast to a whole new level. All suites have stunning, uninterrupted waterfront views in a tranquil setting that will give you the perfect night's sleep. Wake up looking forward to a fabulous gourmet breakfast. To book your ultimate luxury stay at the Waiheke Waterfront Lodge, head to waihekewaterfrontlodge.co.nz.
It's time to taste some of Goldie Estate's lovely wines, so head winemaker Heinrich Storm is giving me a special look into how their blends are made.
I always think it's really interesting when you look at them as individual components, and then when you put them together, you can kind of see how each of those individual varietals play a part in the overall blend. Blends are much better because they all play a little different role to help and support the other varietals in there. So,
Like a choir?
Yeah, like a choir. Exactly, that's a good analogy. This is our Cabernet Franc over here. Let me just double check. Yep, that's Cabernet Franc. We do this quite extensively for lots of reasons. And they change. As they mature in the barrel, they look very different from 6 months ago when we looked at these wines. They look quite austere and hard and very unapproachable. And that little bit of extended time in barrel has done wonders, and they've really softened quite a bit. So I'll grab some Cabernet.
And people can do this, like general public can do this if they organise it in advance?
I've got to really, really like you. No, generally we don't do it for general public, but anyone that's really interested in wine and comes and visit us, yeah, I really like giving them that experience.
The Cabernet
So we've
Sauvignon.
got Cab, we've got Merlot, and we've got a little bit of Cabernet Franc. And normally the way it works is that Cabernet is the leading or dominant variety in our blends. So depending on how much Cabernet we've got and the quality of it, it might be around sort of 50% of the blend. Then Merlot would normally back that up. Depending on, again, the quality, it might be sort of 30 to 40%. And then because of the amount of Cabernet Franc we've got, that might only be about 10% at the end of it. Waikiki, we've got very heavy clay soils. Essentially you get real textural wines from those clay soils. They're very rich. You can get round, full, soft wines in terms of texture. So Waikiki Cabernet, depending on where you are, if you're on the north side and you're north facing, can be quite rich and ripe, very dark fruits, where if you're closer to where we are, we get these beautiful dark fruits, but they've got this lovely herb, classical kind of look to it. That's what's the main difference, I suppose, between Waikiki and New Zealand Cabernets, and if you compare that to an Aussie Cabernet or a Napa Cabernet, they're a little bit more subtle and refined. We always find that the blends together look a lot stronger rather than individual components.
This is lovely.
My analogy, which I stole off someone else, which I can't remember who it was, is the donut analogy. So basically, if you think about a donut, then the donut itself is the Cabernet. So it gives it structure, it holds it all together. It provides it with that sort of longevity and kind of is going to give it length and precision.
That explains why I really enjoy the Cabernet as
Yeah,
well.
and it's
Donuts are great.
normally in terms of tannin structure and acid structure is quite different because that's got to give the wine longevity. So the Cabernet is the donut, and then the filling is the Merlot because Merlot is quite soft. It's got sort of these beautiful red fruits, sort of damson, Doris plum characters, boysenberries. And that's going to give it real lushness to the blend. It's going to fill it out. So that's your filling and your donut. And the Cabernet Franc is very subtle. When you get it ripe, you get beautiful sort of perfumes and floral notes. You get beautiful herbs. and complexity. So that's going to give the wine complexity and sort of a real earthy kind of backbone as well. So that's the Cabernet Franc's role. The Merlot is just fleshing it out, and the Cabernet is holding it all together.
What's the Cab Franc on the donut?
Cab Franc's the sprinkles.
Like the cinnamon and the...
That's the sprinkles.
I'm getting confected, like comfort elements.
Yeah, and around the world you can find really good examples of where Merlot makes these amazing wines, just standalone varietals. But for us here on Waiheke, I much prefer it as a blending component.
Excellent. All right, time for the sprinkles.
Sprinkles. It can really take your blend to the next sort of level if you've got the right amounts of it.
Delicious. So I've tasted the elements. Shall I go and taste the finished product?
I think it's a great idea. Let's do it.
Tasting time.
Tasting time.
We're going to end on the Cab Franc, which we were looking at downstairs.
Yes, we'll finish with a blend. Now, remember the blend we had downstairs in 2019? This is 5 years older, so it'll be quite interesting to show, or nice to show you the age variation as well, and how well this is aged. 3 of my favourites.
And these are classic
Yes,
Waiheke Bay.
very much. So we grow a lot of Chardonnay on the island. Chardonnay does well on the island, performs quite well. I also drink a lot of Chardonnay, so that's great. And then Syrah does really well on the island. Up to about 10 years ago, Merlot was the most planted variety on Waiheke. And then Syrah in the last sort of decade has taken over as the most planted red variety on the island. We'll finish with the blend, the Cabernet Merlot Cabernet Franc blend.
Great.
So we'll get started with our reserve Chardonnay from 2017. It's changed a lot over the years, I suppose. When I first started here, people were almost anti-Chardonnay about 10, 15 years ago because we went through that phase where it was a big, oaky, buttery wines. And Chardonnay is so much more than that. It's a beautiful variety. It can be really elegant. It can have structure and power. The oak can be there without dominating. So that's what we try and do here at Goldie.
So you get a lot more of what the grape has to say as opposed to the barrel.
100%, 100%. So
wow, it's almost green.
yeah, it's got a lovely little sort of green tinge or hue to it. And of course it's got that nice element of a little bit of sort of flint from the barrels, sort of crushed rock sort of character there as well.
Wow. That's
Tasty,
awesome.
isn't it? So we're very careful about our picking decisions, not to pick too late and have sort of alcoholic wines that's very ripe. So we pick just right, so we've got minimise that alcohol dominance and retain some beautiful acidity that just follows through on the palate as well.
That's delicious.
Winemakers love Chardonnay because you can mould Chardonnay a bit more. I love Chardonnay.
Yeah.
I drink a lot of Chardonnay.
Yeah.
And we love making Chardonnay as well. So yes.
Very good. Goldie Estate is home to the University of Auckland's Wine Science Centre, which provides a unique learning experience for students where they're fully immersed in an operational winery.
2016, I moved up here to do the wine science program, which was fantastic. I had worked in the wine industry before. My father, Chris, is a winemaker, and so I'd seen sort of what it was all about. But it wasn't until I came here that my passion really started to ignite, and I could really see that it's not really a job when you love it, and I think that's something that we try to nurture here, is just that passion for wine. And really attracted to the small scale of Waiheke. I think that's something that makes it really special. So many different micro expressions of Waiheke, because owner-operators are often out in the vineyards, they're doing the hard work themselves, and on such a small scale, so much attention to detail.
Having the wine centre here as well, you sort of got, like, you're not just nurturing young winemakers,
No,
you've
absolutely.
got students coming through.
Absolutely, I think that's one of the most special things about Goldie and what it sets it apart from some other wineries, even globally, is having the Wine Science Centre here. And I think that's a real nod to Kim and Jeanette. They had a very nurturing approach to life, and that's really cool that we can continue that collaboration here. And it's good you get a really good look at obviously the theoretical side of things, and then if you have the will, you can step out and work in the vineyards and work with us in the cellar and really get an encompassing experience here. I think the future of the wine industry in New Zealand's in really good hands.
So we're getting a little bit serious now. Moving on to Syrah. This was from another great vintage, actually. 2015 was a fantastic vintage. Now, of course, Syrah, Shiraz, not the same. I'd like to think that Syrah is a little bit more sophisticated.
It certainly sounds
delicate.
sophisticated.
This has got some nice age now as well. So what we're starting to see with this particular wine is some beautiful dark fruits, those primary fruits. But then it's also got this beautiful complex secondary characters that's creeping through now. Sort of undertones of spice and a little bit of tobacco, and a very complex sort of earthy tone as well.
It's got like an earthy note to it that.
Yeah, it's got all that dark fruits on the forefront, and then it's got this complex, I would like to say, sort of a rusticity in the back.
Say that after a few glasses.
Very soft, quite plush on the palate, and again though, the acid gives it a freshness and allows the wine to kind of follow through on the palate. It all adds up to making a really interesting wine. And I think that's the intrigue about wine as well, is that we don't want to drink boring wines. We want to drink interesting wines with character.
So our cellar door, we really wanted to keep this feel. We wanted to keep the history of the place, and we really love to tell people about the history of the place. Being the first commercial vineyard on Waiheke, we are the pioneers of kind of everything that's made Waiheke what it is today. And we try to keep it nice and relaxed. There's a lot of wineries on Waiheke that get extremely wild and busy during summer. And so we try to not host big tours. And if we do it before we're open to the public. And we try to make it a nice, relaxing experience so people can come in and really enjoy the wine and spend all day if they want, and not feel rushed. The biggest thing with the deli, I'd say our most popular thing to enjoy here is coming in for a picnic. So we do gourmet picnics, and you take a picnic basket into the vines, and you take a bowl of rosé or whatever and sit in the vines and have your picnic, which is quite fun.
Enjoy that amazing view.
Yeah.
Goldie Estate offers the perfect location for an unforgettable wedding. Just ask Heinrich and Leslie. With only 30 weddings a season, each wedding receives the special attention it deserves, so it's best to book early.
We're a really close community on Waiheke, and everybody kind of supports each other. Oftentimes we have big dinners here where we host lots of different winemakers from the island, and Heinrich will cook big meals. He likes to cook as well. And they just open beautiful wines and talk about wine. So it's a really big collaboration. Everybody helps each other, which is a really nice, community to be in. And when we do long lunches, for instance, we usually get a few winemakers to come, and I test some dishes with the wines, and they give me their opinions, which is quite nice. So
sounds like you've got everything you need right here.
Yeah, I hardly ever leave, and it's it's super special. It's a really, really great place to live. I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. Even in New Zealand. New Zealand's a great place, but Waiheke is its own special little paradise, really.
And Goldie Estate's sort of at the heart of it.
And Goldie Estate, yes, it is. This place is my second home, and and my second family, so it's quite a special little spot.
Our last wine, and you would have seen the individual components of this wine, but different vintage. So this is the finished product from 2014.
So what happens to that really pretty aromatic element as it ages?
You hope to retain some of those aromatics, obviously. At the same time, you want the wine to soften and become more approachable.
Oh wow.
Dried, again, that sort of French country herb character coming through.
Yeah.
Blackcurrant, cassis.
There's almost like an aniseedy
Yeah.
element to it. God, it changed a lot.
This was a much riper example of what we do downstairs. And I think we used quite a lot of new oak in that particular vintage as well to complement that really rich, ripe fruit that we got in 14. But a lot of those same elements that you tasted downstairs. So the Cabernet, which gives you that cassis or black currant characters. You get the earthiness, some
There's like a
lovely
smoky
florality, smokiness, probably from the barrels. So a slight sort of barrel-derived character that we get in there as well. And then the Merlot just fills it out, gives it real juiciness and acid structure.
It's a delicious donut.
Delicious donut with some sprinkles on.
Heinrich, thank you so much for having me here, for showing me Goldie Estate, and for showing us what Waiheke Island has to offer.
It was great having you guys.
It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.
Well, that brings us to the end of my first day on the Cellar Door New Zealand tour. I've had such a lovely time. Waiheke Island is truly gorgeous. And to top off my day, I have checked myself into the luxurious Waiheke Waterfront Lodge, where I'm kicking back with a local brew and I'm going to enjoy this incredible vista. If you want to catch up on old episodes, you can find us on our YouTube channel online, and I will see you next time.